everyone. It is another week. It is another episode of Game of Thrones. So we are here for GameTrailers of Thrones. My name is Brandon Jones. I am the creative director here at GT. I will be hosting this little get-together. I am joined by Mr. Ryan Stevens.
Howdy there,
Mr. Jeremy Hoffman.
Hello.
And Mr. Marco Rosado.
Hello.
And we have all seen this episode, and we will be watching it yet again while we're talking to you now. Unfortunately, we can't show you the episode, but we'll show some stills so you can reference who and what the heck we're talking about. Hoffman, we missed you. You weren't here last week. So in your absence, anything you want to talk about in general as far as GOT is concerned?
You got my emails, right? I woke up very early and was sending updates. No, I think they did the Purple Wedding justice. I was shocked they did it this early in the season. If anything, it means we're moving even faster than the books and even faster than George now. So he's got to start writing a little bit quicker.
And we start, speaking of the Purple Wedding, we jump in right into Joffrey's face, which, obviously sets up the scene as far as, where we are again, but, that's a bit gratuitous to just go straight to the face.
At least the actor got to get paid, for one more episode.
Well, he's in the Sept scene, which is great. He got to have the little rock eyes on his face.
Terrible.
Is that a detail from the book?
I don't remember that specifically.
Remember that.
Okay. Yeah, those eyes were kind of weird.
They look exactly like the same prop eyes they used for Robert Aaron.
Maybe, yeah,
Maybe
or
they
similar.
reused the same rocks.
I don't remember.
They dug him out of a cabinet somewhere.
I recently saw this first episode again. I was like, oh, they're pretty much the same ones.
So Cersei's really mad in the scene. Tywin doesn't seem really mad. Maybe that's just poor acting for that one shot, but he doesn't seem super upset. I wonder, it might also smells like a pickup to me because he's against a completely blue sky. You don't see anyone around him. So I wonder if that was shot elsewhere or... obviously, the way the camera's pointed, it makes sense that there wouldn't be anything. They were outside. Yeah. That's what the sky
looked
like.
Has this happened before, though? This is a exact to be continued to the second from the last episode,
which we haven't gotten this season.
With
I don't remember specifically.
With a kind of a recap, even with the jester talking to Sansa, which is still, like I said, that's one of those things where it seemed okay in the book and it was going to be hard to pull off here. So it does. I still feel like that. It's not bad, but it does feel like they tried to get in and out of that really quick because it's a little goofy.
It's I said it I think in an email last week. I don't know if you guys talked about it, but as everyone else is, the only two people you actually see to run to Joffrey are Cersei and Jaime, and Tywin immediately runs to Tommen, which is interesting. So he's going to he already at that point. It's like Tywin's such a realist. He's like, well, Joffrey's dead. Got to protect the new king. And everyone else is very worried about the old king. And he's like, Joffrey's already out. He knows the game well enough to know, well, no one's gonna take. If you're gonna try to take Joffrey out, you're gonna be pretty sure that you're gonna be able to kill him. So I'm gonna go to the next in line to protect him because that's really his only hope.
I think that the character, at least in the show, knew that was eventually gonna happen. This guy's gonna get killed at some point, and he was mentally prepared for it.
Well, he knew he was a monster, and
he says it to Tommen. Your brother was a bad king.
Yeah.
But Sansa gets whisked by her knight in fat armor down the steps and towards the boat. And this was funny. I saw this with my parents last night, actually, because it was on Easter Sunday. And, so my poor mother and father were, trying to follow along. And
did they like the brothel scene?
Oh, of course. No, they're my mom loved The Sopranos and stuff, so she's a fan of violent TV when it's done well. But the episode's very dark, and I don't mean subject matter. It's actually very shady, and I like when Littlefinger's revealed on the boat. It's oh, look, who is that? You can't really see him that well. I got a bunch of screen grabs for this episode to show you guys, reference who we're talking to, and I don't know if you can tell that's Littlefinger by looking at him, but lots of obscurity, lots of character. Remember this guy going on in this episode. This is just one of those episodes that I just marvel at how huge this cast is. If you actually look in the opening credits, I remember the first season, everybody's name kind of got their own little beat, and now it's 4 or 5 names at a time to get through everybody.
This episode actually almost felt like the first episode of the season, where if the Purple Wedding would have been episode 12 of season 3, this would have been episode 1 of season 4, where they're reminding you where everyone is one more time. Some big things happened.
Yeah, I wonder if the first episode of each season is really necessary once people start watching it back to back. People are new to the show.
Yeah, I think they do a good job of trying to reintroduce characters in every episode and give you an idea who who they are for the people that haven't read the book. So then I still think they try to keep those things interesting for us, which they do a good job.
If we're going to talk about authenticity, this scene felt exactly like the books. I think a lot of the dialogue was taken straight from there. I love the line, he's a drunk fool and I don't trust drunk fools. Again, just the kind of weird logistics of... interesting he doesn't shield her from that. He doesn't like grab Sansa right away and be like, take her below deck because we're going to kill this guy. He just kind of said, hey, this is my world that you're in now, so you might as well get used to it.
Well, it also shows that he has power, right? Like, he's not... She shouldn't try to escape because he's ruthless. Like, we've only ever seen him really pull strings in the past, and this is the first time we've seen him make a move and be kind of open about it.
Yeah.
He's never the guy that, many times he's been the guy to either get someone killed or have someone kill someone, but this is really the first time that you see him point and it happens.
And it is a nice, release to see, Sansa doing something, going somewhere, like involved in some kind of plot, not just sitting around and being upset. Yeah. So, we did get a lot of that, but I don't necessarily think that was overdone. It was kind of nice build up to this moment. And of all of the headlines that I looked for today, one of the big ones that fans were asking was, where the hell are they going? Like what is, I think there are people that do care about Sansa Stark. So she escapes, and further into the aftermath of the Purple Wedding, we jump to Marjorie and her grandmother. But, a great relationship between these two women. I think the Queen of Thorns does a great job of summing things up. And she's not, she's been kind of wicked so far this season, but this shows she does have a heart. You can see, she's talking about her husband, you can see the tears welling up in her eyes. And Marjorie, I think, is kind of surprised to see that. I don't think she's seen her grandmother that exposed. But not a super heavy scene, but I think a great relationship. And I think the actress who plays Marjorie is working out really well, considering how she didn't really have a lot to do when she first came onto the show. So it's nice when she give her more scenes. You're like, oh, she's good.
Well, it's nice to see that, the Queen of Thorns is someone that we've seen at this point that could kind of go head-to-head with Tywin. At least in terms of plotting, right? Like, he's not the only one pulling some strings. She's got a little bit of power. She's one step ahead of other people as well. It's, because we've kind of seen everyone fall to Tywin at this point for the last 3 seasons, and he's been making a lot of moves happen, and now we see someone come in that could shake him a little bit.
I'm falling to Tywin. I'm a super Tywin fan. This is like Tywin's episode.
I actually think this scene now with Joffrey on the whatever that thing is,
his open,
on the slab,
his open casket
so
funeral here.
I talked to Brandon about this a little bit earlier, but I kind of feel like when he's talking to, it's Tommen, right? Tommen, sorry. I kind of see everything after this scene is not every scene, but a lot of it is almost his talk to him about what a king should be. Every scene that follows, I feel, is like kind of like a perverse like cipher that's dealing with this. Like I'll call them out when they happen, but like the scene immediately following this, I think that kind of talks to like the religiousness and the holiness. And the one thing they don't mention here for what a king needs, right? And it's how the show ends. Dragons.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what does a king need? What does it's strength, wisdom, what's the other virtues? Like holiness.
Holiness. Well, yeah.
And then,
and Stannis is your holy one, right?
I'd say power.
The
dragon.
There's strength. Well, I think there's. I don't know. I'm reading. This is my own kind of personal reading. I'm not saying that's like what they were intending, but it was weird. And then even see like the Hound, and see like strength kind of prevail in like this really like offensive way. And then Tyrion, the wise one, completely shackled. Nothing. All of his people turned against him.
Well, even when you talk about, he talks about the 3, he gives them the ideas of what a king needs, and you had, holiness right now, and that's Stannis at this point, all right? He's the
that
one.
scene as well.
And you've got, what was the other one? Justice, and that'd be Dany. She's coming back for revenge. And then what was the third one? Strength, and I guess that would be, at this point, we really haven't seen who it could be, but I'm wondering if they're going to, use
You're talking about the people actually vying
that
for
are
the thrones.
still vying for the throne,
Okay.
right? And is that the Greyjoys at this point, or who would represent that in the series?
Remember in season 2, I think, or 3, there's a scene with Cersei and Littlefinger, and he tells her something along the lines of knowledge is power, and then she has the guards like wrestle him and then say power is power. But then that kind of falls apart later.
Doesn't Joffrey actually, when he gets the book from Tyrion, say, like, this book represents the wisdom or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, literally uses the word wisdom, right?
And then, then... chops it
Not
up.
to get too like allegorical, but I mean it's interesting. I like this scene. It seems like it kind of is a mini roadmap.
I like when Cersei says it's not the time or the place, and Tywin completely ignores her.
Yeah.
He just gets a steam, like a steam train, just goes right on with the conversation. I also like the usage of this room, which obviously cost them a lot of money to build. And Joffrey gets married in this room. There are a couple of the scenes last season that were done here, and just the lighting and the setting up of the shots. It just kind of makes the room look very different. I like the giant light coming in from outside into the dark room.
The one thing I said to Brandon this morning is Tommen here was one of the other Lannisters last season. He was one of the hostages. So I was confused for a second when I saw him the first time, because I was like, wait, that was one of the ones that was taken hostage, and he was recast
Wait.
Tommen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So I was
bad.
like, for a second there, I was like, wait, what?
Did you look up the names?
I'm almost sure.
I've seen people report on that. Yeah,
That's
crazy.
How could they do that?
It's the same actor. He was only
Yeah.
in like one or two scenes
Same-
before. The only
yeah.
other time you saw Tommen was in like season 1.
It was like
Right?
Martin.
Yeah, and he was like
it was
6,
like Martin Lannister,
right?
one of the ones that was kidnapped.
That was killed with Rob. I mean,
yeah,
back at
yeah.
Riverrun.
Yep.
What the?
Yeah. Yeah. So
And,
I was
and trying not to be confusing, and they
I
do
know
this.
it's a weird move.
And I've seen a lot of people complain about him, Tommen, being a lot older. I mean, everyone's older on the show, but like a lot older
He's
than
supposed
they
to be like
expected him
7
to be.
in the books,
But
right?
I think it makes this scene more interesting if he's actually able to answer these questions, to attempt to understand and communicate with his grandfather.
They need to grow him up, because if they kept Tommen the age he was in season 1, or around that age, and then you see Arya and Sansa like, super huge.
Everyone's aged up at this point.
Yeah.
They're all from the books. This is obviously a different show.
Different story.
So now we get the best scene in the series, the best scene in the episode, the best scene in the season. The very controversial scene. And
Worst scene to watch with your girlfriend.
Man, I'll be honest. I got up this morning and started looking at headlines. Was like, oh, people had a problem with this. Like, granted, I'm a guy, so like, I don't want that to come across the wrong way.
Well,
but,
as 3 white males and Marco,
I mean,
I don't know if we
this
can...
is not the first time perverse sexuality has come up, not only in this show but between these two characters. Like, there's all sorts of wrong going on everywhere in the show. Like, I don't know why. I can understand people saying it's unnecessary, but I was surprised by how shocked people
Well, I think
were.
it's the biggest change from the book at this point. So I won't book spoiler it for anyone, but at this point in the book, Jaime's on a path back to like righteousness, and we all like him, and he's a very likable character. And then they have this sex scene, and in it, Cersei wants to have sex with him in the book. Like, she thinks it's bad to have it in front of her dead child in the sept, and people might catch them, but that's not why she was fighting him in the book. She still had that kind of flame for him, and then they changed that for the show. So now it's Cersei doesn't want to have sex, he does. And I think one of the reasons people felt so betrayed is because you want to like Jaime at this point. You don't want to like Cersei in where they are now, and this makes her feel like she's a little bit of a victim here.
A little bit?
Right, but you know what I'm saying? Well, she's a victim here, but you kind of hate Cersei in the series because
So you're saying the producers are doing this to make bring Cersei back into the fold, because people hate Cersei.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Now, especially now that people were not sympathetic to Cersei, like,
She went up to kiss him. Sorry, I was just watching the episode.
I know it's hard. It's hard to. In the
perverse.
book, they make it very much more clear that Jaime and Cersei want to have sex in this scene. She just doesn't want to have it in this room, in front of the body. And in this, they make it much more questionable here. And they've done that a couple times. They did that with Khal Drogo and Dany the first time. They changed that relationship, and it's. I almost feel like it's even how Tywin treated her in this scene, where she's losing power as more of her children die and she has less control over her children. She's losing power in the series. Tywin does what he wants in front of her. Her children are falling apart. I know.
Okay, where were you watching the scene? And it's while she says no and she says stop, and he says I won't stop. Then she grabs, like, she touches his face.
Well,
But then they fight again.
But if you go back to season 1, when you saw them every time they had sex, he forcibly grabbed her
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah, and I want to point out, like, she doesn't bite
She
his lip
says
off.
don't.
She doesn't punch
She
him.
says
She doesn't.
don't,
Right.
and he says, I don't care.
Right. How many times have we seen them have sex? Twice now, right? In the whole show. So, like, if there's only 2 times they've ever done this, let's go back to watch the scene 5 more times. I think there's a tremendous parallel between this scene and the first time we've seen them have sex, which is the first time we find out about their relationship, which is the first time that he attempts to kill a small child. So they're again in the room with a child who, like, they shouldn't be there with that, with this kid, but it's their kid. And I don't know if it's style wise, if they're specifically drawing a parallel, but she was bent over before in the other, it was consensual, but. So again, with her not like screaming and punching and all this stuff, it's like maybe this is how they have sex. Who knows? Like, I think it's in the beginning when you first see them together, it's like this is wrong, but they have this romantic involvement, and that's unusual for these 2 characters. But they're both very attractive, and we'll see where their stories go. And to me, this scene was a clear like they're done. Like they're this. I don't know. Like I don't. Again, I find it's bizarre when one of these horrible characters that's on this show of horrible people does something horrible, and people are like, that's too horrible.
Well, that's my point, is like, I think people at this point really want to like Jamie on the show, right? Like, and now he's done something horrible, but they forgot all the horrible things he's done, and they're both horrible people. And I think they're trying to make her a little bit more of a victim now.
I think they're just expanding because they're running out of. I mean, those characters have scenes with other characters, but maybe they're just trying to. This is where the book disappears, or there's nothing written, and we have 7 more episodes to go, and they're making a new subplot.
I think in this show that's just because there's another scene that they have sex. They don't show the sex part, but they start doing it.
But
in season 1, and he also like grabs her and is like, she's like, "Let me go," and he's like, "No."
Yeah,
I think that's just the way they do it.
This is like. I don't know about that, man. I feel like this scene was like 40 times more uncomfortable.
Yeah, this is touchy. I don't want to say like I'm comfortable with this happening. I'm not comfortable with anything anyone does anywhere in Westeros. It's like it's all bad. It's all terrible.
You have to go to Bravos.
No means no. Women have rights. I'm all for that.
I think it's. I just think the shock from the audience of like they just feel betrayed by someone they liked at this point.
Sure.
Where if Jamie was still the same character he was in the first 3 episodes, where he's throwing children out of windows, I don't think people would be as
that's a good point.
angry about it, because he's someone you like now and she's someone you don't like, and now you see her as a victim and you see him as a bad guy, and it makes you feel right. It makes you're just like, what is happening? And that's what people have to remember. This Game of Thrones has never been about black and white. It's always
about fire and ice.
It's always about grays.
It's a good
Every
thing.
one of these characters are gray, and not one of them is who you want them to be.
So Cersei's the ice and Jaime's the fire.
It's just I don't know. It's a fucked up scene.
Yeah, but it's good. It's a good thing for the show to keep, not to be black and white.
Right.
Yeah, to keep
it stays true to the
Well,
universe.
look at the Hound in the next scene, right? Like, everyone I think has conflicted feelings about that character. You kind of like him though. I think people like him, but
again, it's this weird
actually
thing.
The mountain is pretty black and white.
We end the last season with a character poisoning. I mean, not to do spoilers, but if you know who that character is, it's like, oh, we love that character.
Yep.
And then he like sexually abuses a woman he's previously been in a relationship, who's been a raging biatch to him for months and months and months after he's been physically abused on multiple counts, and then in this, like, the Hound like beats up this guy, and it's like, oh, I love that. It's just this weird like battle of morals that people have with the show.
I have a really dumb question here. Is Arya trying to be a boy or a girl when she's talking to the peasants?
She's being a girl.
I think she's she's not hiding it anymore.
I wasn't sure. I mean, it's I
don't think she's hiding
it. Seems like the voice and stuff.
So we're off in the hills on the way to the Eyrie with the Hound and Arya.
I love that they're stretching this out. I love the books, like they would have been apart by now, and I love that this is going on.
But it is a little more concise, actually, and I think it's almost kind of like a riff on the books. Like I can almost kind of step into the writer's room with them, because I remember him working at multiple farms. Like, he actually did do that for a while. The Hound. He actually did work for some people, and I remember Arya getting very frustrated, like, come on, let's go. So I think it's kind of funny for the writers to be like, what if he just beats up the first guy? They like offers him a job and takes his money and leaves.
The thing is that Arya has this transformation scene for Arya in the book was when she got Needle back.
Yep.
Killed that guy. That was like, in the book is actually way more violent than in the show. In the show, she like goes apeshit. In the book, I mean. And that scene happened in the first episode of the season. So they're filling in all that all the way to the end of the book, of the story. with new stuff, which is great. I mean, I love that.
I love that but we see that, she's learning to lie, she's learning to kill, she's picking up some very un-Stark-like qualities because she knows she has to survive.
And the Hound is teaching her.
And
that.
the Hound is teaching her. And as much as she despises him, she's slowly starting to realize to survive in this very fucked up world, she's gonna have to use her role model is the Hound, and it's like
Slurping loudly.
Yeah, when you look at both of them drinking the soup, sucking it down, it's
We got
like
closed captioning on, and it says slurping loudly.
Yeah.
It just shows
That's good.
how kind of similar they are at this point.
This scene's really cute too.
This poor little girl.
Yeah.
But you kind of think of like all of the. For some reason, I don't know why it's popped in my head, but looking at that little girl, I imagined people like Kat or Cersei, and just like, what are the crazy stuff did they see? When they were little girls, and just like these people passing through, the countryside on their way to kill somebody or win a war.
You know what though? The Hound, even though he did some barbaric thing at the end where he stole the guy's silver, he didn't kill him. Before he would have murdered. The guy.
Well, they're changing each other, right?
Mhm,
She's
yeah.
picking up some things from him, and yeah, that's I agree. Because when Arya's pissed that he's doing it, I was cracking up last night. I'm like, he ran down your friend just because someone told him to. Like, he could have easily killed this guy and his daughter without blinking, no problems. But he let him live. So they're changing each other on this journey, and that's one of the more interesting stories happening right now.
I wonder if he just didn't want her grief back on the road. He's like, oh, if I kill him, I'm never gonna hear the end of this.
Yeah, but that's true.
Oh, okay. So now we're watching the whole bit about
pardon me.
Gilly being sent to Molestown, and I just found that unnecessary. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I was just like, what is this going? I just wanted. Yeah, I didn't care. Like, it just
But it's
seems
Sam.
very.
It's Sam. I understand the rationale. It's like, yeah, she might get raped in Castle Black, but
Justice. This is scenes about justice.
but it
And
just
wisdom.
seemed Sam was just acting like. I mean, he's a really smart guy, and he was acting really stupid.
Well,
I
that's
think.
what happens when you start thinking with your penis. he's
With his penis, and he leaves her farther from his penis.
I'm just saying. Because it's come on. He's totally been friend zoned here, and he doesn't want anyone else to hook up with her. No, I think this whole scene just felt very like they're obviously having to slow it down a little bit because things are moving quickly, and they need certain people in certain places. And they haven't got them there yet, so they're adding some scenes like this. It's dragged on.
Analyzing some exposition. The scene starts with Sam walking by, and we see two characters talking about how this guy's a
well, that's him,
robber.
right?
This
He's
guy's-
walking by and he's talking to himself, and he's going rapist, thief, rapist.
he saying
it's
that?
him. Yeah.
Sounded like an older guy.
It looked like two
I thought
other
it was
guys.
him
Wait, no,
doing
let's
it.
go
No,
back.
I was wondering the same thing, but I didn't care enough.
pretty sure
to
it's Sam
check
doing it.
out.
I thought it was Janice Slint or whatever his name is.
No.
My interpretation was it was another character basically introducing someone to the wall, being like,
Yeah,
here
I
are
thought,
some
it,
people.
I thought
like,
it was new recruits.
Here are all your friends. Look, that
I
guy's a
thought it
rapist,
was.
that
I thought
guy's-
it was him walking through and talking to himself.
The Ranger.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a Ranger.
oh,
These
it's
two
that
guys,
one.
yeah,
You're
C's
right.
pointing
You're right.
them out.
Okay, got it. And I saw
Nice,
Sam
yeah,
walking
Sam.
there. Yep.
So, what I think we can maybe glean a little bit from the scene, other than their relationship, is what's the wall again? Who are these guys? Like how does this work? Because some shit's gonna go down at Castle Black. Sometime this season. So it's
Well, you
kind of nice to
never-
get a reintroduction of like who they are, why they're brothers. He says that he's like, these guys are my brothers, but a lot of them
So,
were rapists before they came in.
what I'm
so.
Yeah, you
confused
never
about is-
heard knight or blacksmith or anyone
Is-
good out of that list.
So what I remember from the books is that there's 3 keeps that are currently occupied.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm.
Eastwatch by the sea.
Right.
The Castle Black.
So
and
they're
the
saying there's
one
only
on the
100
left.
people at Castle Black, or there's only 100 people at the wall entirely?
I think there's 100 people at Castle Black.
Oh, okay.
Castle Black is the one being assaulted. 'cause
But
they
it-
don't
Right,
open the
right.
door.
But Castle Black also has the most, I think, is the most well stocked and manned. So even if they eat, the other ones have 50 people. There's not many people left. The Rangers are few and far between.
Thinned.
Like I think, 80% of them died last year.
yeah.
across the
Yeah.
the other side of the wall.
And we even see that a couple of them get away and come back
Mhm.
to us in this a little bit later in the show.
It's not a pivotal scene, but I didn't really mind it.
Yeah, I actually liked the Gilly
That was.
portrayal.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I like the Gilly portrayal, but it's. I wanted to see it. Maybe it's me. I wanted to see her more interact with the Night's Watch. I want to see how that. I think that would have been more interesting than just disappearing her. Yeah, whatever.
Brandon, can you read your notes for this next section?
Stannis and Davos argue about troops and blood magic.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was reading the wrong one. Never mind.
Gilly and Sam pluck feathers and face facts. So yeah, little notes here for the episode. I like summing up one sentence. Oberyn has some hot sex.
Yeah.
Tywin asks him to sit on Tyrion's panel of judges.
No, I was gonna say, I feel like the Sam and
You should write
Gilly,
TV guide summaries.
the Sam and Gilly thing felt
Sam and Gilly, that sounds delicious.
felt more like it was for viewers that were kind of forgetting who these certain characters were, and they
That
were
he killed a
in.
wildling, we get, or no, that he killed a White Walker, we get
It felt like
reintroduced to that. Oh yeah,
exposition.
that dagger
Yep.
was all that stuff. So we jump over to another part of the world where Davos and Stannis are together. We get reacquainted with them after seeing them in episode 1 of this season. Love Davos. One of my favorites from the book. One of my favorites on the show. I think the
that's
scene
a
coming
safe
up
bet.
between him and Stannis' daughter is adorable. And she's got some stuff on her face though. Yeah, Stannis really angry. Really, I didn't get that when I read the books. I was actually a big fan of Stannis because he always spoke true, and he does have it doesn't mean crap in Westeros, but he does have the most legitimate, right to the throne. Yeah, he's clearly at his wit's end. I mean, you can just see it in his eyes and his face. He's very ragged. It's raining very heavily. It looks very uncomfortable and sad there. Anything about Davos, folks?
I like these characters. I like Davos a lot. I think I think everyone likes the Onion Knight. I did think the scene kind of felt like an episode of House, where House would be like, "We're never gonna solve this," and someone's gonna be like, "I'm so thirsty," and he'll go, "I got it."
Yeah.
And I felt that felt a little. Oh, it wasn't bad, but to me, it really jumped out as like kind of a sitcom moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that when Shireen is her name.
Yep.
That when she puts the book down and she says "Bravos," I immediately was like, okay, that's how they're gonna do it. It's Iron Bank. I mean, I read the books, of course, but
They've also been bringing up Bravos a couple times in this episode, so we're hearing more about the East from characters in the West, which is interesting. But it really feels like they've just set up. Last week's episode felt like they knocked down a lot of things, and this week they're kind of resetting up kind of where the world is. Now that Joffrey's dead, the big bad evil dude's dead, and like in most TV shows, that would have been your season finale, and we would have gone away. And this is Game of Thrones, where they're like, no, that's the second episode of the season, so we got a lot more to do. And I think that's where we're at now.
So here's the thing. They, in the book, this thing with Bravos and the Iron Bank happens way later. In book 5, I think.
Right, but it's like
And in a different location.
Different
right?
location.
No, but I think they've already
A much different location.
But they've already had to get the money from them. I think that's
They
when...
did?
Oh no, you're right.
No, they
Well,
have that idea later.
I don't know. That's interesting.
But
So
here it's like he doesn't have an army anymore.
But hasn't
Right.
this been brought up with Tywin a couple times?
yeah, they
Like
brought up,
they're laying the seeds for that, which is barely, to be honest, is barely even in the books like a plot thread. Like it's such a tiny little string.
Which to me is like, okay, this show writers
I
know
think-
where it's going. They know the ending. So
Oh,
this
yeah.
is an important
No,
thing.
when they talk about like the loan payments haven't been coming in a timely manner, and I think you can extrapolate from that. And I think, like you said, I think we are seeing a big thing. And I love Bravos. I want more Bravos.
Well,
Oh,
the
man,
thing is, I don't know if they passed. So what we're kind of saying, guys, that are confused because people are running out of money in Westeros, and the only people that have more money than the Lannisters is the Iron Bank of Bravos. So we've heard about them a little bit now. Some people are borrowing money from them.
That's a really good television show where a guy writes a letter to a bank and you're just like, whoa, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Look out. Earmuffs, everybody.
I wonder what
He's
the
writing to
APR
bank.
is.
Davos is making a withdrawal.
the thing is
Look
that
out.
Bravos becomes an important location
We are,
in the book.
but to be
later.
fair, we are extrapolating a lot right now.
Right.
Yep.
Like I want to make that clear.
So to move along in the episode and to get to more important matters, we're back to close to the wall. Any spoilers in this scene? I do want to point out for viewers, there are more boobs in this scene than I first noticed. When I was going back later and getting stills, I noticed some major boobage going on.
Boob targeting.
It's again like everything. It's very shadowy boobage. But I mean, we kind of talked about this. I don't know if there's anything we really need to get in more with Gilly and Sam. But more stuff is happening with Gilly and Sam. They're not just we're not revisiting them just because. Is this the first time we've seen them this season?
I mean, this is.
Oh no, we saw Sam.
But this
briefly
is just
before.
kind of when they're talking. This is more kind of like what happened. This is I think this scene also pays off for later when the other brothers come back. So you kind of remember what happened with them, because I was watching with people that hadn't read the books and were like, who are those guys? So this is kind of explaining that again.
Yeah.
I think we're going back to focus on the North. Now a lot of shit's happened in the South with Joffrey. The North is going to become more important this season, and I think they're just kind of re-explaining a lot of those.
And from the brothel,
And it just cut to
the
someone's
bed.
ass.
Crack.
So we get our weekly dose of brothel here. I like when Oberyn tells him to sit on the bed. He's like, "Well, have a seat." He's like, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, just sex. I mean, we should probably get to Tywin. That's probably the really relevant part of the scene. But again, Tywin killing it in this episode. Just demonstrating his wisdom, his holiness, his justice. But this happened in the books, right? He was Oberyn was placed as a judge on the
But
trial.
you never see the conversation between him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
So
many
just,
things that
yep.
have been set up on the show.
Red Viper's barely a character in the book until the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting that we don't see Oberyn actually shake hands with Tywin, and we don't find out that he was a judge until we visit Tyrion in his cell, which we can jump to if we're gonna.
I think the Red Viper is probably my favorite character right now in King's Landing, because he's just a troll. Like,
Oh, yeah.
everyone that comes at him, he just trolls them back like with a straight face.
Well, the thing is, he knows why he's there. He knows what he wants, and he's just like, whatever, you could say whatever you want to my face, but I'm still gonna get revenge for you guys killing my sister. So
It's also
put
nice that
me
he
on your
mentions.
stupid council, put
Yeah.
me on whatever, but like, you're not gonna get away with this.
It's nice that he mentions in this scene. Tywin says, "Well, I'm here. There's no guards. I'm unarmed. Do it." And he says, there's a time and place for that, basically.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of helps clarify that for people that are like, I like this character, but it's like, do it. I mean, if you're that upset, and you're here, what are you waiting for? And he's waiting for the right moment. Who's to say whether that right moment will come up later in the season? But Pod visits Tyrion in his cell. Maybe one of the last times we'll see poor Pod. This was one of the people that he walked in the cell. My dad's like, "Who the hell's this guy?" I'm like, "He's just a squire." My wife said, "Just a squire." I'm like, let's keep it to simple answers here.
He's the guy at the brothel. I mean,
Yeah.
They made him a bigger character here in the show than in the book, actually.
Yeah.
At least at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting. It's Tyrion's obviously been set up. He's the one Lannister we like, right? Like, he's the one that he doesn't.
We hate Jaime now.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like
Obviously.
we're back to the part where we like Tyrion's the only one that actually has any redeeming qualities on the Lannisters, and he's the one that's not free. Like, he is gonna get screwed over by everyone. His sister has always hated him. It's just a way to get this poor guy out of the way, and
He still
he
really
fell into a trap. He totally just walked right into it, and Joffrey, he had no idea that Joffrey was going to die, and Joffrey
that's
just
the whole
going
thing.
after him so much at the wedding just perfectly sets him up to take the
That's what I was
fall.
gonna say. Like, even if he hadn't been, Uncle, be my cupbearer,
Yeah.
it probably still would have got pinned on him.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the thing. Like, he
Yeah.
was destined to get fucked on.
Well, all it had to
this.
do was
Like,
Cersei to scream it, and the
he's
guards
still
would act.
he's still ridiculously level-headed. Like, he knows it's not his sister, right? Like, say what you want about my sister, but she loves her children.
Yeah.
And telling Pod some good advice.
Some crazy people thought Cersei was responsible too, so it's kind of nice to destroy that myth right
yeah.
in
Really?
the episode after that.
I'm curious. What would have he wanted Brom to do? Do you know? He calls
Testify for him, right?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, anybody, any chance
I thought,
he has.
I thought he wanted something else. Okay.
Pod comes to him to ask for who would you want to testify on behalf. That's the whole point of the
But
scene.
he doesn't say that though. He's like, I have a job for
Yeah.
Brom.
Well, I wonder if he wants Bronn to
Bronn,
go.
B-R-O-N.
N. Okay.
I wonder if he wants Bronn to go, obviously check on
Something.
Shay.
Oh,
He's
it's probably
so worried
Shay,
about
right?
Shay.
Yeah. Okay.
I love this slapstick right here. With the dad and the arrow to the neck.
Slapstick.
Gets me every time.
Yeah, this scene felt
Oh, what a funny scene.
The action in this scene felt a little off.
You see the wall in the background. I didn't notice that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it just shows how close. But there's a scene like this similar in the books, right? Where they kidnap everyone, or they kill everyone except like a kid or two and send them as a warning.
But this feels like an action movie right now. Like we're Schwarzenegger, and like the villains are extra villainous. We are going to eat your mom and dad. your mama and your papa.
I like seeing Ygritte in this situation, though. Like,
That's the good
I think
part.
they kind of softened her up a little bit, being around Jon. Our image of her, at least. And then we've seen that, there's a little turmoil between her and other wildlings because they're questioning her loyalty to Jon versus the loyalty to the wildlings. So this scene very clearly establishes, like, she's totally cool with killing kids, but doesn't care as long as they can actually pull this off and take Castle Black.
She doesn't
she's
speak
down
in
for
this
whatever.
episode.
Yeah, this goes back, but this goes back to exactly what we were saying about Jaime and Cersei. It's like it's a series of despicable characters doing despicable things, and people shouldn't be shocked when people that do terrible things to each other.
But I that's a good point that you brought that up. Is it's just like, we have the scene where Jaime, like, forcefully has sex with his longtime lover versus, like, storming this town and, slaughtering all these people. And then everybody's just like, man, that rape scene. It's like, what about this scene? This is terrible. Like, this wasn't in the books. Was this necessary? Slaughtering all these people? It's like, people have become so accustomed to that. It's weird that, like, the sexual perversion was the thing that won out as far as the controversy goes.
And
Well,
I wonder,
in America, sex will always trump violence.
but I wonder if it was a character.
Hopefully people in the UK are listening to this podcast.
But if it was someone, I wonder if the Jaime thing was someone that we didn't like already.
Yeah.
That had done that to Cersei. If people would have been ass shocked.
I gotta say, also, this kid's hiding spot was awful.
Yeah, it wasn't going to work out well for him.
It's like a wheelbarrow.
Despite his mother's insistence.
And the wildlings are just monsters at this point. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no black or white. Before, like, you could kind of like, oh, Giant's Bane is kind of cool.
I'd say it's
But
pretty
here,
black.
like-
It's it's the black.
Yeah, still, but he was
There's
kind
no
of
white up
funny.
here. Well, there's the snow.
Take the black.
And we've talked about the North, and I think this is kind of setting up stuff that's going to happen in later episodes. But I don't know if this is really
Yeah.
a super important scene. Like,
No,
we've known the wildlings are coming for a long time.
Yep.
So this is obviously something that they got to set up and keep letting us know about.
Well,
But,
it also explains what happened at Craster's, and there are some.
Yeah,
are some.
Did they
crows.
just get back from Craster's?
Yeah, that's the
Dolores?
thing. They were held
All that time?
Yeah, they were. That their whole point is that these guys were held kidnapped by the guys that killed Craster. So there's these crows up there, and if they don't go kill them, the wildlings are gonna know their truth.
And
But
this was not in the book. This plot point.
I remember they came back, but I don't remember how.
But again, it helps to justify for people that are trying to put the pieces together. Why don't they just go out and slaughter all the wildlings? Like, why don't they just head north and end the problem and you're
Yep.
done? It's like, because that's how pivotal Castle Black is. We can't leave this unmanned just in case they attack the next day. We can't go out there in a straight line, have them whittle us off one by one. We have to defend this keep. That's why we built it, to be this gate, between the north and south of the wall. And like I love when the show does, we go from, the bitter cold to the super hot arid desert. And we attack Meereen, kind of, for the conclusion of the episode. I saw someone on Twitter lamented the absence of strong Belwas, which of course is really sad in all of his instances. But like, does he stand in for Dario in this scene, or does he do something
think
specific?
so.
He does. If it's not this scene, he does something almost identical somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Belwas
Because he
was in
lets
this
It
because
was
he lets
Belwas.
every man cut him once, right? And
Yeah.
then he eats his onions.
Belwas is an awesome character. in the
He's
book.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you can get on a Game of Thrones wiki, definitely look up strong Belwas.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he was probably one of the characters that was probably right on the edge of like, should we keep him or not? Because he's great, but he's kind of a side character.
I always feel like, it's Dario and Grey Worm have kind of taken on the Strong Belwas character, split it a little bit, and taken that role. Poor Jorah totally gets friend zoned here.
Yeah.
She's like, she makes it pretty clear there's no hope.
This is like a reverse. This part right here is like a reverse Wizard of Oz. Also, it's like, Grey Worm, we need your brains.
yeah.
Jorah, we need. I don't know. It was. I don't know. It felt a little manipulative. I know it's. I mean, it is what it is.
Well,
but
she also knows from the very beginning who she wants
Oh,
to fight for her, and she, shows that she's the queen, and wisdom, you're able to, not put your strongest warrior, your most trusted companions up there, and she pretty much makes Dario fight for her without making him do it, right? She's not twisting his arm, but she walks him into that path.
She's really confident of him winning too.
Yeah.
I love the cinematography in
Well,
some of these shots.
I also think if he doesn't win, it doesn't really matter, right? So it's almost her weakest link here.
Well, he's the leader of her cavalry, though.
Yeah, but I'm saying she could probably, if out of all of the other guys, she could have bought off another mercenary to run her cavalry, right? Where
Ooh, none of the Blood Riders were there, huh?
The Second Sons are the what?
No, like the blood of my blood, the Dothraki that stayed with her.
Oh yeah, the Dothraki are like 10 at this point.
Yeah, but they could have thrown one out there to room. I don't know. I guess maybe it would have been confusing.
So we have seen Dario do lots of awesome things last season, but we haven't seen this actor do anything specifically this season. So it is nice to revisit his blades, which have naked ladies on the hilt, and his accuracy is definitely maxed out, and just cleverness. Just kind of. There's a lot of that. Actually, there's more in a lot of great Daenerys scenes that I love in the books. Just this kind of give and take between your weapon versus my weapon, your armor versus my armor. And showing like what you can do with very little.
So, do you think the dagger to the horse was that CG or was that like a?
No, I think they threw a dagger into a horse's eye.
No.
Yeah, I read they had to kill 10 horses.
No.
Yeah, that's right.
But good scene though, right?
I don't like it now.
Women get raped, horses get slaughtered. It's
I know,
Game of Thrones,
the
man.
horse kind of looked like a gelfling running or something like that.
That's pretty crazy. You shoot the arrows at your enemy, knowing you're not. What if you hit Daenerys? What if like some guy was like, "Oh, my bad,
Okay,
I sneezed before
Well, I
I
think
shot."
they knew they were out of
Arrow
range.
range.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
That's why they stopped so far back.
Minor detail here: the cast notes for this episode have Istahar, or what's his name? The guy.
The main
main dude?
Yeah, that's probably him.
That's
right?
him, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I mean, they show a couple of these guys multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
That guy
some
seems
named-
like the more featured character.
Yeah, there's some named characters that were
The one with the awful
that
hair.
we'll meet soon.
So this is kind of like that scene in Yunkai. You said Yunkai? No. The first city she goes to. Was it?
Astapor?
No, the House on the Undying.
Oh, right.
Karth. That she's at the gates of Karth, and then you meet all these characters right up front, and they become important later. Where this is similar, where all these characters up on the wall actually are characters we're gonna meet later.
And she does a great job with this language, man. Like she, it's one thing to like learn the language, another thing to speak the language so convincingly, another thing to speak the language convincingly. And I believe this is public speaking. It's not, it's not just having a conversation. She has to like really hit these notes, really make these people understand what she's saying,
And really amplify. Because I was thinking what would be
Well,
really
yeah,
funniest
super
is the
silly.
people up there were just like,
What?
What?
Why are there collars? Where did you? Thanks for the collars. What? We're running out of these.
The same thing when she's addressing her army the first time. She's just like, kill these people. It's like, dude, there's like 10,000 dudes down the line. How are they gonna hear you?
That's when, as far as I'm concerned, Aliens is a near perfect film. But one of my big problems is like, Hicks is like soldering something right next to his face and like whispers to Ripley, who's like 20 yards away and hears it perfectly. Like, film and television.
Trebuchets, catapults.
But great scene, great way to wrap up the episode. Great way to remind us why we love Daenerys. And we didn't talk about this before. Interesting that Tywin knows about the dragons. He says that. He's like,
Yeah,
yeah.
Because in Westeros, in like all of the books, they're still like, oh, I heard she has dragons. Probably not true.
It's always a
everyone.
troll, yeah.
Well, everyone on Essos is like, oh fuck, that lady's got dragons.
But just interesting that that Tywin knows that. And
Yeah, isn't it like Isdar and Hisdar and
I think that's his dar.
Jizdar and a bunch of fucking names. Like there's like 3 or 4 guys we see there that are gonna be some named characters from Marine that
A
she's
personal
gonna
opinion.
fuck with.
Yeah, personal opinion. The names in Marine are really shitty.
They're really bad.
really bad.
There's like Yizdar and I don't fucking,
Barak.
yeah, I don't fucking remember any of them.
Look at that shot.
well, they're all coming, and we'll have more names to put in the opening credits.
I know they got to start killing more people.
Are you gonna be back?
Where are the Greyjoys? Like we haven't seen.
Dude,
Where was Hodor in this episode? You gotta make sacrifices.
I'm still like, I think they totally nixed the story with Balon Greyjoy, which he was a big character in season 2. In season 3, he's like in 1 episode, and
But we've seen him once, right?
not in this season.
Not this season, right?
No.
So because
He
we're still
should be
waiting for
dead.
Yara. We're still waiting for Yara to show up. We're still So I think the Greyjoy stuff, they're just kind of, it's gonna come up.
But it's a big deal in the book.
I know. Those characters have been cast though. That's the thing. So it's just like we're waiting for those characters stuff to pop back up.
Oh my. Okay. So that means that I just hope they don't at the very last 2 bits of the season, they just try to like stuff that in there, because the Greyjoys are a big deal in the book, especially like.
Yeah, they add like 12 new Greyjoys that we need to remember. That I feel like they're just trying to kill some characters at this point to get some before they introduce more.
I think the Greyjoy stuff can be condensed with just Yara saying, "Hey, I'm gonna sail this direction," and then. Bloop.
Yeah, but all of the other brothers pop back up. I think they've all been cast.
They've been cast.
I think some of them have been
No.
cast. Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Crow's Nest or whatever.
Well, the
Crow's
guy
Eye?
with the patch.
I think so.
Really?
Crow's
Oh.
Eye.
Maybe not. I think maybe they were rumored, but they've got to show up at some point.
Speaking Valerian.
It's getting too complicated.
It's too many characters.
That's why we need you, Hoff. You can be back next
I
week?
will. I'll
Okay,
be here.
good. We should be back with the original Gangsters next week for episode 4. We're not even halfway through this season.
Yum.
It's amazing looking at the timeline for the episodes, how much space the opening credits takes up. It's like a full minute, before you actually get into any good stuff. But love it. Hope you guys had a wonderful vacation holiday weekend. And we get another episode on Sunday, right? They're not going to do anything and any foreseen delays in the
Not that I know of.
in the running of the episodes. Well,
Nope.
then we'll be back next week for episode 4. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Marco.
You're welcome.
See you next week.
Later.
Bye.